What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Holy Living Podcast. My name is Miranda, and today I am here with a special guest. I don't believe we've ever even had a guest on the Holy Living Podcast, so this will be our first guest. This is my girl, Kylie Teal, and I'm very excited to have her on the podcast today. We are going to have a really good conversation. And we're going to be talking about grief, miscarriage, and the loss of a loved one. So it's going to be a heavier topic. So I do want to go ahead and give like a trigger warning. If you are in the deep of it, in the thick of it, and you're not ready to hear about such a heavy topic like this, then I would encourage you to click off, maybe watch some of our other videos right now. And I do encourage you to revisit this at a time that may be better, because it is going to be, a heavier topic that we're going to be discussing today. But we wanted to have this conversation for people who may be struggling with the topic. We've kind of had some time to sit with our own experiences regarding the topic for a little while now, so it's not easy, but a bit easier for us to actually talk about. So before we get started on such a heavy topic, I do want to go ahead and I want to ask Kylie a couple of questions, because I know you guys have never met her before. So really quickly, I do have just a bit of an icebreaker. I wanted to know, Kylie, it's the 4 C's. So I want you to name a cartoon character, a color, a car, and a cuisine, so like a dish, like a food, that would best describe your personality, and why. I'll help you if you get. So start with a cartoon.
A cartoon?
that would best describe your personality.
Oh my goodness. I don't even know.
I didn't prep her on this. I wanted it to come in and just flow.
A cartoon? I'm trying to think of the cartoons.
That's the most like you.
That's the most like me? A Powerpuff Girl.
Powerpuff Girl? Okay, which one is your favorite?
Oh, I don't even know.
Uh-huh.
The grumpy one.
The green one?
The green girl, yeah.
Alrighty, so what about a color? Which color best describes your personality?
Teal.
Teal? Okay, that makes sense. Alrighty, what about a car that would best describe your personality?
A Volkswagen, because that's what I have.
Okay, a Volkswagen, and then a cuisine.
I love sushi.
Sushi? Okay. Yeah. You like the raw sushi?
Yep.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, so what's your favorite, what is it, sushi roll?
I love anything salmon.
Okay.
So, like, all salmon rolls.
Uh-huh.
Like, I love it.
Okay, I'm a bit weirded out about, like, anything raw. Like, even with my steaks, it's weird because, like, I prefer, like, when it's in my mouth when I'm eating it, I prefer a medium steak. But when I look at it and I see pink, it like freaks me out.
You want a well done steak?
I want to look at the well done steak, but I want it to perform like a medium steak.
Yeah, because you don't want to chew on it.
Yeah, and just knowing that there's something raw in like, it feels wrong. So like anytime.
Tried?
I've tried sushi. I've tried the raw sushi. And if I'd ever eat sushi, it's going to be like a California roll because that's the one that's cooked,
sushi,
right?
Yeah.
I know everybody always, that's
it's
not
crab.
real sushi.
I think it's crab.
Yeah, that's what they say. I don't know. If I'm going to eat it at all, it's going to be that. Because it's just raw stuff. I don't know. It just does something to me. Okay. So you like sushi. I didn't know that.
I love sushi.
Alrighty, because you bake too.
Yeah, I do.
You love to bake?
I do.
Yes, okay. Alrighty, well, that is just a couple of questions that I wanted to get into before we got into such a heavy topic. So, as I said before, we're going to be talking about some heavy things today, and we both have our own experiences with them. Mine being miscarriage, and you've lost a loved one. Not too recently, but recently pretty recent in your life. So do you want to tell me a little bit about, because I've never it's your brother. I've never met your brother. I don't really know much about him. So do you want to tell us a little bit about him?
About my brother?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm already going to cry.
Yeah, I know. I already have the tissues because I know this was going to be like an emotional one.
My brother, he was like a dad also. So
What was his name?
Mason.
My
brother's name is Mason. Oh my gosh, I don't even know where to
Yeah.
And we kind of went through that together.
Mm-hmm.
And it was rough because it's crazy. We've been talking about family dynamics in church lately.
Yeah.
We had kind of a rough family dynamic, like our parents getting divorced,
Mm-hmm.
separating. I think I was 8.
Mm.
So he'd have been like 13.
Mm-hmm.
So very young.
Yeah.
It affected him differently than me because I was so young.
Yeah, he was older.
Yeah, he was older. Um, Dad was also an alcoholic. So just on
Mm-hmm.
top of that. So we went through a lot
Yeah.
even before
Right.
all of that. So
Mm-hmm.
it's actually crazy. My brother will have been gone 5 years tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow.
And a couple of days ago was his birthday. He would have
Mm-hmm.
been 29.
Mm.
So he was only 24 when he passed away. It was very tragic.
Mm-hmm.
Sudden, you never think,
Yeah.
you never wake up and think that's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
But his favorite food was chicken Alfredo.
Ooh, me too.
He loves chicken Alfredo.
Uh-huh.
He hated cottage cheese.
Oh
He thought that
yeah.
was absolutely disgusting.
Does anybody like that? Oh gosh.
I eat cottage cheese and fruit. But
Okay.
yeah, he liked to cook. My
Okay.
dad liked to cook. We used to
Mhm.
go hunting. But
Mhm.
that was kind of a mixture. But that's a little
Yeah.
bit about my brother.
That's awesome. I wish I could have met him, but I'm sure
Yeah.
because younger siblings always, because I'm the oldest,
Mm.
so younger siblings always want to be like the older siblings. So I'm sure there's a bit of him in you.
Oh yeah,
So I bet I'm meeting a little bit of him.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you wanted to be like him, whether you
Definitely.
said it or not.
No.
You probably didn't tell him, did you?
No, but it made him so mad.
Uh-huh.
And the thing, like, I was such a tomboy when I was a kid because I wanted to be like my brother.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, I want to go outside and play in the mud.
Uh-huh.
My mom, she wanted to put me in cheerleading, and I'm like, I want to play football like Bubby. Like, what? I don't want to cheerlead. I want to get on the field right now.
Uh-huh. That's funny because I was kind of like that. So I have a stepbrother, and we grew up. So my dad and his mom, my stepmom, they got married when we were in kindergarten. So we grew up like our whole lives together. But we were in the same grade. He's only a couple months younger than me. His birthday is actually in a couple days. So he'll be 25 in a couple of days. But it was like that. Actually, I was still older than him by a couple of months, but he would go out. It always seemed like boys had more you've had. Maybe give us a little bit about like how you found out, what you did, where you were at mentally, that kind of a thing.
So, the last time I saw my brother was on his birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And he had came over to my mom's house that night. It was like short notice. Me and him were supposed to go out that weekend to go eat dinner. And so that was the last time that I actually saw him was on his birthday was the 8th.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of short, quick, hey, love you. Got some chicken Alfredo. My mom made him chicken Alfredo.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course we thought we were going to see him again.
Yeah.
I had just started a new job at this tanning salon in Belton. And Monday was going to be the first day that was by myself.
Okay.
So that morning I woke up, and at the time, I was staying with my boyfriend at the time. And so on the 11th, I woke up that morning and was on Facebook. And I remember thinking, like, it's my first day by myself at the tanning salon, and I was kind of nervous.
Yeah.
I get on Facebook and I actually see, a post, somebody murdered in Belton. And
Oh
like
gosh.
instantly, like my heart dropped. And this is crazy. This is crazy to even say, because when he left on his birthday, something went through my head and it said, what if that's the last time you see him? Go hug him.
Oh gosh.
And like I instantly, like, I was like, why would you, like, why would that be in my head? Like,
Yeah.
I instantly was like, ugh. So I didn't. And I regret it. I do regret it to this day, because I didn't know that was going to be the last time that I seen him. And it's crazy to even say that. Like, I even talked to pastor about it too, and I was like, what was that? Like, was that God warning me? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what it was.
Right.
And that morning, that Monday, so a couple days later, that Monday, when I read that, the night before, I actually had nightmares. And like, not like, I knew I had these bad dreams. And for a long time, I felt like maybe it was him telling me, like, that he's gone. Like, I just woke up, like, kind of distraught. Like, I was just, like, I didn't have a good night. But when I read that on Facebook, my heart, like, instantly, like, sank into my stomach. And then I looked at the address, and it was my brother's. Like, I can't remember the exact numbers, but I was, like, looking at it, like, oh my goodness. And my brother was into, not so good stuff.
Right.
And I knew what he was around and stuff like that. But I was texting him, and it was like the last messages that I said, dude, wake up, because I'm calling him. I'm like, wake up. And texting my mom, I'm like, do you see this article? Like, it says it happened at 2 a.m. There's news reporters out. Like, I'm like freaking out. I'm like, I'm like trying not to freak out.
Yeah.
But like, I'm like, this didn't happen. Like, like,
Yeah.
it's not. So my mom is driving there. It's like everything starts hitting. His best friend, which was like our cousin, we grew up with him, calls me, or I called him. I'm like, what's going on? Like I don't know. Everything was just like lining up to be him. And before it actually was confirmed, the cousin best friend was on the phone, and he was like, I'm so sorry. And I was like,
What are you
why are
talking
you? Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, what are you saying? Like, what do you mean I'm so sorry? Like, no. And so I just instantly, like, I just knew, like, in my heart, I knew. And I just broke down, like, and I was asking God, like, why us? Like, why us? And at that time, I wasn't believing it. Like, I was like, no, like, I'm crying because I knew. But, like, part of me is like, it's not real. So it's cold. It's 2019, February 11th. It's cold outside. There's still snow. I'm in shorts and slides and like a t-shirt. And I go get in my car. I made my boyfriend drive, because I was like, I know if I drive, I don't know what I'm going to do. So he drove us down the street. It was maybe like 5 minutes away. So he drove us down the street. Police everywhere. There's still, everything. My mom pulled up, and I just remember her like cry. And I remember she was on the phone. She said, they took my boy.
Oh my goodness.
Because she had asked him, like, was it Mason? And his friend had came out and was like, yeah. And I was mad. I remember, like, the grieving, all the emotions were already starting. They actually almost arrested me because I was so angry. And I was like, what happened? Like, I wanted to know what happened. I'm like, why? Like, what happened? And then they said he got shot. And I'm like, what do you mean? And then there's like, his blood was still in the snow.
Oh my God.
And so just everything was like, the caution tape, the police, the them getting mad at me, asking me, like, because I was banging on the door. I'm like, where's he at? Like, what's happening? And the police was like, who are you? It's like just angry. Like, I'm like about to fight, even though I'm this little girl. Like, I'm like about to fight. Like, like I said, they almost arrested me. Just because I was just going so crazy. Because what do you do in those moments? Your emotions are literally like going haywire. Like, you're trying to grasp and grip something that your brain is not like
prepared for
ever. And I just couldn't understand why me, like why him, and that's
Mhm.
a lot of things. So I would question me, but then I'd question why him, because he
Mm.
didn't deserve this. And then also thinking, so for the next couple days, it was really hard because they were all like asking us questions like we had done it.
Oh
Like they have to
gosh.
do that. Like they have to like,
Rule everybody out.
yeah, like, and so I remember going up to the police station, sitting in the same spot that a couple weeks before I had took my brother to pay
Hmm.
off some court stuff,
Mhm.
sitting in the same spot waiting to be questioned about his death. And
Wow.
I just remember just it feeling so fake. Like it didn't
Mm.
feel real.
Yeah.
Like the shock was just I couldn't breathe. Like I
Mhm.
felt like
Like you're not here. Like it's
yeah,
not.
like
Yeah.
and everything hurt so bad.
Mhm.
Like it felt like somebody was sitting on my chest and squeezing my heart and like I couldn't get a fresh breath of air. Like I
Mhm.
literally couldn't breathe.
Mhm.
And then watching my mom cry and everybody in the family. And then I think like what really killed me too was like when we had to like see his body, like you could see like the bruises on his face and you
Mhm.
could see where he got shot and how they like tried to wrap it up
Mm.
and you could see where he fell on his head. And then they told me where he got shot. He got shot in his left leg, his right shoulder, and then through the back of his head. And so you can just like, when we saw his body, like, it's like burned into my mind.
Mm.
And like, I see it and I hate to remember my brother like that.
Mhm.
Cause like, that's not him.
Yeah.
And I remember his eyelashes being so long. He always had pretty eyelashes. Like, why did I get those? But
That's how it works. The boys get the
literally, the
pretty
boys get
ones,
the
right?
pretty, yeah. And my mom, it was Valentine's Day that we had to see that we saw his body, and we didn't have like an open
Wow.
casket.
Yeah.
It was just for the family,
Mhm.
and really, I had to take those days, day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute, second by second.
Yeah.
If I can make it this next second,
Hmm.
if I can make it this next minute, like I
Mhm.
had to like put myself like
Mhm.
make it the next
It
minute.
felt like survival
Yes,
mode.
I was
Yeah.
definitely in survival mode.
Yeah.
I stopped eating.
Mm.
All I did was smoke weed. I
Mhm.
didn't do anything. I
Mhm.
wanted to lay in bed. I quit my job.
Mm.
I didn't I was riding around with my boyfriend.
Mhm.
Like I didn't like when I tell you second by second, I was taking it second by second.
Yeah.
Like, excuse me.
Mm.
Like and then just the spirit of suicide
Mm.
started creeping in.
Mhm.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. The spirit of depression was there. Like
Mhm.
going through the process of planning a funeral. Like it's not real. They're talking about him in past tense
And
and
it's
I'm getting
weird to
mad
think of like,
because
right, like
was.
was. Who, what do you mean was?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I'm still not like I'm mad. I'm
Yeah.
angry.
Yeah.
Um
I get that.
then being mad at family members who I feel like weren't there for him. We
Hmm.
had a very like rough family.
Uh-huh.
The older we got, it's like everything kind of, aunts and uncles fighting,
Mhm.
just people just not getting along and cousins fighting, stuff like that. I was angry, like at everybody, like nobody could tell me nothing. I didn't
Mhm.
want to talk to anybody. I wanted to fight everybody.
Mhm.
I didn't want nothing to do with nobody. I feel like I couldn't talk to anybody. Like I was like in this moment of just like sulk. Like I will literally rot away right now and not care. Like
Yeah.
I couldn't care. And I remember how easy it could have been for me to get pills.
Hmm.
How easy it could have been to kill myself, really. Like
Mhm.
one thing that I will say, like my boyfriend at the time, he really did help me like
Mhm.
stay alive. Like
Hmm.
we had our own ups and downs and issues, but I do believe like if I don't know how I would have made it without him because my
Mhm.
mom was already going through her own loss. Like we lost the same person but a different grief, like a
Yeah.
different
In a different way.
yeah,
Yeah.
I lost my brother. She
She
doesn't
lost
have
him.
siblings and she lost her son
Mm.
and her first baby. Like
Mhm. So even though you were grieving together, she couldn't understand your point of view because she doesn't have a sibling and you don't have a son, so you
Yep,
couldn't understand her part. That had
exactly.
to been tough.
And then the anxiety, the
Mm.
crippling anxiety that I had was so crazy. Like, I couldn't go anywhere. Like, I
Hmm.
couldn't do anything without thinking somebody's gonna kill us. Like,
Mm.
something is going to happen. I couldn't leave my mom's sight. Like, let her
Mm.
leave my sight. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't go do stuff and think everybody's gonna be okay. Like,
Mm.
locations had to be on. You
Yeah.
had to answer the first time, or I'm in full blown
Panic
panic
mode.
attack.
Hmm.
And like, these panic attacks were so severe that I would like forget my name. Like, I
Oh
would
gosh.
forget where I was. I wouldn't know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I would literally just like black out. Like, it
Hmm.
was like a spirit over
Mm.
me,
Mm-hmm.
like blocking everything.
That's
Like,
that's interesting that you say that because I was listening to Tiffany Montgomery. You've probably heard
mm-hmm,
us talk about her. And I heard her say that there is a difference between grief, like regular, like healthy grief, because if we lose somebody, we're human beings. It's going to affect us in a way.
mm-hmm.
So there is a such thing, from what she said, there is a such thing as like healthy grief and demonic grief, where the devil will take those things and
Yes.
like multiply and flip them you get what
Wow.
I'm saying? So like, and make them more detrimental than they would have been, like had we had God or had we
Wow.
known what to do, right? Because we don't always know what to do when you're in the thick of
Yeah.
it. It's like you don't always know what to do. So I definitely believe,
Yeah.
yeah,
There
that you
was
were.
a pull, there was a tug. And I remember, um, so my dad had heart failure. Like,
Mm,
he used to have to take a lot of pills. So that's what kept me away from the pills.
okay.
Was like, don't take those pills. Me and Bubby were like, no, no pills, no
Yeah,
pills.
yeah.
So that was like, my doctor prescribed me these pills to like,
For the panic
for the
attacks.
panic attacks. I remember I took like one and
Mm,
instantly was knocked out, like, like straight
mm,
to sleep.
yeah.
And I was having nightmares.
Mm,
I was waking up out of my sleep, like screaming, crying, like fighting for my
mm,
life, like literally just I
yeah.
couldn't function. Like, it was
Yeah.
terrible. And I just remember, like, my ex was telling me too, like, you don't want to take that. Like,
Yeah.
you're gonna get addicted to that.
Hmm.
And I was like, I know, I don't. And it was hard because I remember thinking multiple times, like, I could take this whole bottle right now and like
Mm,
all my pain would go away. And
mm-hmm.
I remember thinking like what that would do to my mom. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't do that to my mom.
Mm-hmm.
She just lost somebody,
Mm-hmm.
her
Already
son.
lost a child.
And imagine I couldn't do that to her. And that's really one of the things that
And see,
kept me.
that's the trick of the enemy too. He does try to put that in our heads, right? Like if I just end it right now,
No more
no more
pain.
pain.
Like,
And that's the trick because that's when the pain, the
the
real
real
pain
pain would have
begins.
began.
Right.
Like,
That's definitely, yeah, the trick of the enemy. That's just terrible. Like the whole story. So mine was different. My grief was a
mhm,
bit different. So my husband and I, we got married at 19. I told you a little bit about our story
mhm.
a couple of weeks ago. Well, no, I told you about our story when we first met,
Yeah.
like a year or it might have been
Mhm.
like 2 years now, right?
No, it was a year. So I've
A
actually
year?
been coming for a year now.
A year? Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I remember all of us girls, we went out. Where did we go?
We went to
Is
a
it called
coffee,
Baxter's? I think that's
a
what it's
coffee shop.
Baxter's Coffee Shop?
I
I
don't
don't
even
know.
know. In
It's
Lee Summit
yeah,
somewhere.
yeah, some coffee shop. But yeah, whenever Kai first started coming to our church, we went out and we kind of all got to know each other. But I remember I told you a little bit about our story. But yeah, so me and my husband, we have been married since 19, and there was maybe a couple of months where we were like, yeah, we don't want any babies yet.
Mhm.
Like we're still young. But that was honestly only for a couple of months because we saw Sam and Chelsea and they had a baby.
Mhm.
So we knew like, oh yeah, it's possible. Like we're not
Yeah.
gonna die. Like everything is gonna be cool if we have a baby or whatever, from the outside looking into their situation. And we were married, we're like, we had jobs. We're like, yeah, we can, if we,
Yeah.
we want a baby now. So it was, like I said, there was only a couple of months and nobody knew this because I knew our parents would think we were like nuts because they already thought we were nuts for getting married at 19, right? So to say, yeah, we're trying for a baby
Yeah.
too, they would have been like, yeah, you're dumb. So So we didn't really mention it to anybody that we were like, because there was a point where we were like not trying, like we weren't like
like it
trying,
wasn't.
but it was like, if it happens, it happens.
Yeah, like whatever.
Yeah. So we were like like not immediately, but like I said, a couple of months after we were married, we were like open to having babies. And then I would say like definitely by like our first year anniversary, we were trying to have a baby.
Okay.
Probably a little bit before that, but that's when we started trying, and we had never gotten pregnant ever since. So that would have been we got married in 2018, so probably 2019 we've been trying to have a baby, and nothing ever happened. And we were just trusting God that it would be in his timing, and that was fine. We're like, God knows best. But then when we started wanting it more, just at least from my perspective, I'm sure my husband will get on here and maybe one day tell from his perspective. But from my perspective, that was fine for like a year, maybe a year and a half. But then after a little while, I'm like, okay, well, I wonder if something's wrong here. Like, because it's just not making sense that like, it seems like some people are able to just like accidentally get pregnant, right? And then me and him, it's like, I don't know like maybe something's wrong, right? So, I just continued to pray. I mentioned it to like when I would go for like my yearly checkups at the doctors. I would like mention it, and they would be like, yeah, everything looks fine. Like there doesn't seem to be any problem. So that gave me some comfort, knowing like, okay, well then it really is like just God's perfect timing. Like he's just going to make it perfect whenever he does. And I had never shared with anybody because, I never want to be like a victim, and I never want to, I don't want to like look at myself as a victim. And I also didn't want to like, I don't know. I'm not very like, it's kind of crazy that I'm on here talking about this because I'm just not the most vulnerable. Like, I really don't like to cry in front of people. I don't like, I don't know. I just don't like really talking about like the things that I'm struggling with, especially something that felt so like, if it just felt super personal. But so I would talk to my doctors, and they would say, everything seems to be fine. They would always mention like, we can go for next steps, because I guess whenever, people struggle, you see, I still don't claim that. Like, I never claimed like, I'm like barren or like, I don't know. I never claimed it, because even when the doctors would say like, everything seems fine, we can schedule you for an ultrasound, they would always say that. So we can like go to the next steps. And in my head, I'm like, I don't want these doctors like putting a name on me. Do you get what I'm saying? And then that's something else that I would have to like, no, I'm not. Like, I don't want them to say, you get what I'm saying? I guess maybe I was like scared of what they would say in a way. So I just never really, like, I would schedule it, but then I would just like always cancel, like, it's fine. Like, it'll be fine. God will just, God will work it out. And that just went on for years. And I would say the past year was when things really started to like it would hurt, like to like see everybody getting all these, like, because especially now that I'm 25, now all my friends from high school are starting to get married, and they're starting to have babies, and you know what I'm saying? So especially when I've been trying for like almost 5 years at this point, it was becoming really, really like tough to like see that. And then I would also feel like sad for my husband, because I don't know, I would just feel like, gosh, I don't want him to like wish he had a different wife or something. You know what I'm saying? Like that. And so it would get like tough. And I tried not to talk to him about it, because it was just something that was super like tender, and I didn't want to talk about it. Sorry. So like I said, the past year, it started to get really tough when I would see, others posting their positive pregnancy. And of course I was super happy. Like, I was so happy for them. I would never wish harm, but I would ask God, like, what is it? Like, what's wrong? What's wrong with me? Like, is there something wrong? Like, and it just felt like I wasn't getting an answer from him either. And, like I said, the past year had just been super duper tough. So fast forward, to, gosh, maybe June or July of last year. You actually, it's actually crazy. So I shared a little bit the last episode with Bria about how my husband got arrested. So when I had to go get the money out to get my to bail my husband out, I saw Kylie at Walmart because I went to go get cash.
I'm like, hey.
No, Kylie's like, hey. I'm like, hey. And then I had to hurry up and get on because I did not want to have to, like.
I was on the phone. She was, okay.
Yeah, I'm like, I did not want to have to be like, yeah, my husband just got arrested. So I'm like, yeah.
The deacon?
Exactly, because you were with us playing pickleball, weren't you?
Yeah, like
20 minutes before.
Right before, yeah.
So I'm like, oh my gosh, this was my worst. Because when we were pulled over, I'm like, I do not want nobody from the church to pull up and to see this. As soon as I go into Walmart, I see Kylie. I'm like, oh great, that's just funny. Great. So I hurried up, I got my money in, and I left. But anyway, what I was so the podcast people have already heard a little bit of this. I don't think you have. So as I was on the way to go bail him out, it just feels so crazy to say because it's like, yeah, the deacon, he got arrested. Yeah, and like, because I'm not that girl. Like, I don't know. They got the ride or dies, whatever. That's cool. More power to you. I never had a man that I had to go bail out and all that stuff. So this was new to me. But anyway, as I am going to bail him out, I'm just praying. I'm talking to God. And I told Bria, I tried to call the pastor, like as soon as because the police officer, he was so nice. Mm-hmm. Praise God that he was so nice. But he was like telling me everything that I was supposed to be doing. So after he got done explaining to me what I was supposed to do, he went back to the car and he was like, yeah, go get the money, whatever. So as soon as he got in his car, I called the pastor. Because I'm like, I don't know. I feel like I should. Like, I feel like I should call the pastor and like ask him what I like, Mm-hmm. So it went straight to voicemail, right? And then when I was talking to the pastor later on, he said he never got a call from me. So I'm like, that was God, because God wanted me to talk to him. He didn't want me talking. Yes, because he knew that if I was going to talk to the pastor, I would have probably been on the phone with him the whole time, like on the way there, and I would have missed the revelation that he was about to drop on me. Ooh. And Kylie, when I tell you this ride, I'll never forget the ride to go pick up my husband from jail, because it was so, because I suffered and I battle and I win from anxiety too. But I remember in the past we got pulled over and I had a full-on panic attack because I thought he was going to go to jail that time. And the reason I thought that is because he always had all these, when he was 19, he was in a car accident and he was supposed to go to court and never went. So he had all these like court dates that he missed. So it was just like a constant state of like, okay, we got to avoid the police because we never know if he's going to, So anyway, the time before that we had got pulled over, I was scared that he was going to go to jail that time. Kylie, when I tell you I had a full-on panic attack, it was probably 1 a.m. We was out door dashing. This was probably in like 2020. And we was out door dashing. And the police officer, he was from like England or something. He probably thought I was stupid because I couldn't even talk. I'm like I'm literally having a panic attack. And because I was so scared that he was going to go. Yeah, I was so scared that he was going to go to jail. And just, I don't know, just so much stuff. Anyway, long story short, I felt God's presence with me this time that everything was going over. And you would think that like this would be the time that I'm having a panic attack, right? The real time that he's going to jail. Not at all. I felt so calm. I felt like God was like making us be responsible, if that makes sense. Because it's like, okay, y'all are getting older now. You had all this stuff that you did like when you were teenagers that you never really went back and took care of. You're a child of God. Let's not have this under your belt anymore. Let's be grown-ups. Let's take care of, your responsibilities, and let's move forward. And I felt like he was like making us do that in that point. So instead of me feeling like super scared, I felt really like, when you about to start working out again after you haven't worked out in a while, and you're like, okay, like I feel motivated, I feel cool. That's kind of like how it was for me. I felt like, all right, bet, like we about to take care of business, like we gotta go, right? We gotta go through this little hiccup, but everything's gonna be fine. So as I'm on the way there, God told me that as I'm there, and I swear, I know people probably think I'm crazy, but I literally felt as if like my womb was like open. Wow. On the way there, and he told me that it was. And sure enough, he revealed to me so much so many other things within that like 30 to 45 minute time frame. It just felt like he was just like downloading like revelations into my head. But the main one for the point of this show that we're talking about was that my womb was open. Sure enough, I went and then I was pregnant, and I actually had a prophetic word spoken over me the day before. So we had went to a women's conference, and there was a prophetess there. And she said that. She said, you're about to be pregnant and you're going to have a girl. That's what she said.
Oh.
Yeah. And I was like, I don't believe it. Literally, we got in the car and I told Bria and Chelsea, I was like, do y'all believe her? Like, literally, I was like, do y'all believe her? I don't know. It's just something don't feel right. Like, something just don't feel right about it. I was scared.
Yeah.
Because for one, I ain't never talked to no prophet before. I'm like, what you mean? Like, how do you know?
And that's
like,
huge.
Yeah, and it was
not
huge.
Little.
Even though that's something I was been praying for 5 years now.
And how did you know that?
Yeah, no, but she was right. She was right, and it was it was me. It was my unbelief. I was in unbelief. Yeah. And Bria had said that. She was like, sometimes things can just be hard to accept. And I'm like, I don't know. So the next day, I was praying on it. And I remember I told God, I was like, all right, God, because God asked me, he was like, are you going to decide to believe her? That's what God asked me that day. Before, it was on the way actually to go play pickleball. Because I was wrestling with this like all day. Then I was wrestling with it. I'm like, God, like, is this true? I don't know. Like, it was just hard for me to like accept. And and he had told me, he was like, Miranda, are you going to choose to believe her? And I was like, yes, I'm going to choose to believe her. Because I think sometimes, too, whenever we have unbelief with the things of God, with the things that God has promised us, because God had already promised me. That's another thing that I forgot to mention. In this whole 5-year period, God had already told me that I was going to be a mother, and he had already revealed to me my purpose. And my purpose was very motherhood-centered, right? And so what the lady was saying was not unbiblical, and it was not anything wrong, and she spoke the word. So why is it that I was having trouble believing her, right? And that's what God had told me. He was like, are you going to choose to believe her? And I think that a lot of times when we struggle with unbelief, because sometimes it can be hard to believe the things that God says in his word, through his people, because, we are here, we're human, and everything is spiritual, but sometimes we can't see the spiritual. So sometimes it's hard to believe things that we can't see with our eyes, but that's what faith is, right? So that's what God was showing me in that moment, was sometimes the cure to your unbelief is you making a decision to believe. And so so that's what he was like, are you going to choose to believe her? So I was like, yes, I choose to believe her, right? Then the next day happened, he got arrested. God showed me all this stuff as I'm on my way to go pick him up. And I remember walking into the the parking lot. I was in the parking lot. I was singing. And I was like, if these people see me right now, they probably think I'm stupid, right? Because who acts like this in this type of a moment, right? Like, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, that's the joy of the Lord right there. So anyway, I come out and I get my husband. And he comes out, and I feel like he probably thought I was weird too, because because he knows me. He knows that like these types of stressful situations, they like freak me out. Yeah. So he probably thought I was like, oh, you're happy? You're singing songs? Like you're joyful? And like, yeah, like I really am. So anyway, sure enough, I got pregnant. So to make a long story short, well, I kind of said my long story, but I got pregnant a couple of days later.
Wow, it was only a couple of days?
Just like, yes, it was, that was probably in June. And then, I knew I was pregnant before I took the test. Like a week before I was pregnant, I just knew. Like, and I had never been pregnant before. So I had nothing to like base it off of, but I just felt in my spirit, I'm pregnant, right? I kept telling my husband, and he was like, no, you're probably not pregnant, you're not pregnant, whatever. So I remember I took a test on 4th of July. No, was it on 4th of July? It wasn't on 4th. Yes, it was actually on 4th of July, but remember we had that thing here at the church?
Yeah.
That wasn't on 4th of July. That was on like the 3rd of July or the 2nd of, it was like a couple of days
Yeah.
before.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, so I was pregnant then, but I didn't know it. I hadn't taken a test yet.
You knew, but you didn't.
I knew, but I didn't know. So I remember on 4th of July, I actually took the test, and because I had taken many tests before, right? Because when you're going through this 5-year-long thing, it's like I would always like believe that I was pregnant and then never ended up being pregnant. So I had taken many tests before, but for this one, I was shaking. I was so like, oh my goodness, because like your life is about to change, right? If you found out that you're about to have a baby. So I finally look at the test, and like the emotions and the gratefulness that I felt, it was like nothing, because it was like 1 a.m. I had to wait till he was sleeping because I wanted to do like a surprise for him or whatever. But it was like 1 a.m. But like, Kylie, when I tell you like the emotions that I felt, I was like, God, you are so good, because I knew that his timing was perfect, right? And then, I told him that little bit later that day, I told him that we were pregnant, and he was just like, what? Like he could not believe it either, because it was a long time coming.
Yeah.
And it was like that was like the best month of my life that I knew I had my baby, that my baby was coming. But then we went to our first appointment, and we were actually gonna have our baby at a birthing center.
I remember us talking about it.
We were gonna have our baby at a birthing center, and they don't have like ultrasound machines there. So what they do is they refer you to a place that does have the machines. And so we went, and then a couple days later, we had our first ultrasound scheduled. And whenever we went in for the first ultrasound, they said that our baby stopped growing at 6 weeks. So I would have been 8. I would have been 8, almost 9 weeks at that point. So yeah, that was like it. When you were talking about how like it didn't feel real, that's why I was like, I can understand that, because I'm like,
what?
Yeah, like I didn't even cry. Like in the actual, whenever she said that, she's like, yeah, your baby's measuring to only about 6 weeks. And then I started making up these things. I'm like, well,
It's just little, like,
yeah, exactly.
like,
yeah, well, maybe I
what?
had my dates wrong, and maybe, just all of that. And it was really tough, because the worst part of this, and I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy, was after she said that, we went straight back to the birthing center so they could take my blood, because that's how they measure, I guess, like the HCG, which is like your hormones. It's pretty much your hormone levels. And I went straight there. They took my blood, and they said I had to wait 24 hours for them to call. Girl, that was probably the worst.
The longest 24 hours.
To know if your baby is dead or alive. Like,
Wow.
that was the worst part. And then we were praying for a miracle. We left there, and I'm like, no, I don't come into agreement with this. I don't care what the doctors say. God, I'm asking that you make my baby alive. Like, I'm asking that this is a big like fluke. Like, I'm asking all these things. I'm like, there's no way, right, that I could wait this long. And then I'm given this just for it to be snatched back. I'm like, there's no way that God would allow this. Like, I'm a child of God. There's no way that this can happen to me. Sure enough, we got the call. Or no, I'm sorry, I actually called. I called because I'm like, I can't. It was like 11 that morning, and I had already like worked and was waiting, and I'm like, all right, I gotta call and see what's. And she was like, yeah, your levels have not risen at all, so that is matching up with a miscarriage. And that's when I just wept. I was just like devastated. And the funny thing is, because you can see grief happen in different ways. And of course, I loved my baby, but I didn't like your situation. You grew up and you've only ever known your brother. I only knew that I was a mom for a month and a half. And so it was tough because that's the only thing I felt like I ever wanted.
Yeah.
But grief definitely shows itself in different ways, because when she said the words miscarriage, like, I broke down and I was like devastated. But even that same day, I remember I was cleaning the bathroom, and because mine was what was called a missed miscarriage. So when people have miscarriages, a lot of times it's like it happens right there. You have to get rushed to the hospital because, like, you're
Mhm.
bleeding and stuff like that. That didn't happen for me.
Mm.
Mine wasn't like an emergency situation. It's called a missed miscarriage because you miss it. Like, there's no signs to show, right? There's no signs to show that you had a miscarriage at all. It's just you don't know until you go to the doctors, you know? Or if you don't go to the doctors, then your body will, like, do what it needs to do eventually. But, like, even in my case, that took another month. So just the whole
Wow.
period was just like torture. And I remember, but like I said, that day, I remember I was cleaning the bathroom, and even though I was like the saddest I had ever felt in my whole life, I still felt the joy of the Lord. And I remember talking to people, because they would be like, because I remember we went to the chiropractor, I think that day, and we ended up telling them, because, that's my doctor. I have to tell them,
Mhm.
this is what happened. And they were like, it doesn't look like you guys are, not that you're sad, but they're like, you're wearing it well. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's the joy of the Lord, right?
Mhm.
And I remember feeling like, this was the crazy part. I remember feeling like, God. And
Mhm.
I know that's kind of a touchy subject, a tricky subject that nobody wants to talk about, right? Nobody wants to talk about the
Yeah.
fact that, like, I was mad at God.
Mhm.
And I didn't even admit it to myself, because I know that that's like a taboo thing. And I also have the fear, I fear God.
Yeah.
So I didn't even, like, come to terms or admit it to myself. But I remember there was a point that God had he revealed to me that I was mad at him.
Mhm.
And I had to come to terms with it. And I was just talking with him, and I'm like, God, why did this happen? Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, I thought I'm supposed to be covered. Like, I thought, like, this is your baby. This is your perfect timing. This is your plan.
Mhm.
Why could this happen to me? Like, isn't this supposed to happen to, like, people that aren't saved, right? Like, that's
Mhm.
like literally the
Yeah.
conversation that I'm having with God. Like, aren't these terrible things, or not? I don't want to say are supposed to happen to people who are not saved, because of course I don't want anybody to go through loss. But,
Yeah.
whenever you're saved, we always hear and we know that it's true that we're covered by the blood, right?
Yeah.
So I think sometimes whenever we hear that we're covered by the blood, we can have a flawed understanding and think that bad things still won't happen to us.
Yep.
And because we're human, because we live in a fallen world, that's just simply not the case. We're
Mhm.
going to go through things. But the
Yeah.
difference between us going through things and somebody that's not saved going through things is we have God, right?
Mhm.
We have God. And He had revealed to me, because it just felt like back to back to back different things were happening. Like, we got the news of the miscarriage, and then, Bill and Sam, they have a lawn care company, and it seemed like I was getting back to back calls that Bill was in the hospital, from different things that would happen
Mhm.
while they're out working. And then I remember, like, coming home, I'm like, God, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like, I thought you just told me I was about to be in a season of breakthrough. It feels like just break.
Mm.
I just feel break. I don't
Oh.
feel breakthrough. Like, I'm literally heartbroken, and it just feels like there's no let up. And then he began to reveal to me, some people have miscarriages and die because, like, have you ever heard of
Wow.
an ectopic pregnancy,
Yeah.
where they're too, like,
Mhm.
that happens a lot. He said, you don't even know the things that I have saved you from, right?
Wow.
He said,
Wow.
because I remember my husband had cut his finger on the lawnmower,
Mhm.
and I remember on the way to the hospital, I could have swore I heard somebody say, it's not funny at all. It's really not funny, but I could have heard, and this was the devil. This was literally the devil trying to make me scared. But I could have swore I heard somebody say while they was on the phone, "Did you get the finger?" So
Golly.
I'm like, oh my gosh, they done cut his finger off.
Ah.
Like, what is happening? So, but he was revealing to me, like, because his finger did not get cut off. It was like
Yeah.
split. He had to have stitches, but like he kept his finger, praise God. So
Yeah.
he was showing me like, no, people do lose, because even the doctors, they was like, they was saying he's lucky. We know that
Yeah.
he's blessed.
Yeah.
But they was like, because people do be losing fingers on a lawnmower blade. Like that's not an unheard of thing. And so he was revealing that to me. And then the next week I got a call that, he fell in a ditch and something happened with his ankle, and just so much stuff God was revealing to me. Like, you don't know that Satan was trying to take you out in that. He was trying to take you out. He was trying to take your husband out. Even that scripture that said, Simon, Simon, the devil has, what does it say? The devil, it's a certain scripture. Sorry, I'm trying to ask my husband. He's behind the cameras. But the devil has wanted to have you that he may sift you as wheat. But Jesus said, "But I have prayed for you," right? And I remember that scripture was so super comforting to me in that time, because that's what the devil wants to do, right? He don't care none about that we just lost a loved one,
Yeah.
that we just lost a baby. He don't care none about none of that. He wants to put more pressure on you. He wants to make you even more sadder. So those suicidal thoughts, so you can smoke weed, so you can do drugs, so you can not care about your life, so you can be mad at God, right? All of these things, the devil, he ain't gonna have no let up, right? If it was up to him, he wouldn't have no let up. And but Jesus said, "But I have prayed for you." And that is so powerful to me, because Jesus has prayed for us, right? And it was just super duper comforting to me, because I'm like, okay, I'm sitting here asking God, like, why is this happening? Why is this happening? And he's like, and you have no idea the things that I've stopped because I love you, because you're mine. You have no idea how much worse the situation could have been. And I'm like, worse than my baby? Like, still I'm not satisfied. I'm like, worse than my baby dying? And then he's like, yes, because the both of you could have died, right? That's, God talks to me. We be having full-blown conversations, but instead of me being ungrateful, he turned it into gratefulness. So that's a bit about, and even still, like, it's just hard.
Yeah, it is.
It's hard, and even still seeing the negative test after negative test that I'm taking, I have to just lean on him, and I still trust him. I still trust his timing. That doesn't mean it doesn't hurt.
That
And
part.
I think a lot of people, if they haven't gone through things like this, they don't understand.
Yeah.
And I pray, and I'm happy. Actually, they don't understand, and I'm happy that they don't understand.
Yeah, that's something that I have to accept a lot too. It's like, you don't get it, and I can't expect you to get it,
Right.
because you have no idea. And like,
what this is like.
yeah, you're the most pain you've ever experienced. You can't think beyond that,
Right.
Because like you saying, like, what could hurt more than losing
my baby? Right.
Unless something else happens.
Right. That was worse. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of how I lived my life. Like, what could hurt
Right.
I know a great amount of loss. So now it's like,
Yeah.
what could hurt more? Like, you don't know it until but Job lost his whole entire family. So it's like, we think,
But there was, even in that story, there was a redemption.
yes.
Right?
Yes.
There was still a happy ending. And I know that when you're in it, it feels like there's no way that this could have a happy ending. There is literally no way that there is a happy ending, but that's just because we're thinking with our own understanding, and that's not God's.
And I think when we think of a happy ending, we think of all, like, worldly. I feel like through my own flesh eyes, we'll think like all rainbows and sunshine and roses and unicorns, and but like, to get to that happy ending, you go through a lot of bumps. You go through a lot of trials and tribulations. And I also think sometimes we might not fully understand why. Like, because I've struggled with that why question, like, up until today, like, for a while. I've asked God, like, why didn't you cover him? Like, you cover me. Like, why wasn't there favor there? Like, some people get shot 10 times. He only got shot 3 times. Like, there's literally, like, that, why? Why us? And I think something that I'm reminded, though, is that the devil, like, not everything was meant to go that way, but the devil, but God.
Right.
But God.
Because just as God has a story written out for us for our lives, if the devil, he thinks that he's going to win, right? Because we're
Yeah.
already victorious, but he has written out a plan. Him and
plan.
his little minions,
Yep.
they've written out a plan for our life. I remember my husband was telling me about, I think it was, I'm reading the same book that he read, but he's finished and I'm not finished. But in the book, Reverend James Solomon was talking about how the devil has, like I said, little minions, and he was doing a deliverance on this one girl. And as he's doing the deliverance, these demons were like, "No, you can't cast us out. We already have her whole life planned. At this age, she's going to get pregnant. And at this age, she's going to have an abortion. And then at this age, we're going to have her kill herself." I think that's what he said, if I'm remembering the story right. But the devil has a plan for our life too. But here's the good news, right? Because I know this whole podcast was about, all of our sadness, which is very valid because we've been through it and it hurts. But here's the good news, right? The good news is that Jesus came and he died on the cross for our sins, right? And we're going to be saved so long as we continue to walk in his will, right? Because God already has a perfect plan for our life. And I know it feels sometimes like as we go on more and more, we're leaving the, it's like, how is my life continuing on and I don't have this person, right? Because from the moment I got pregnant, my mind was like, okay, everything I do in my life, we named our baby Honor. I'm gonna have honor with me. Or I'm gonna have to think about honor. Every decision that I'm gonna have to make from here on out, as soon as I saw the pregnant on that test. And I was so happy because I'm like, wow, like we're gonna get to consider our baby honor in every move that we make from here on out, right? And now that I'm at this point, I'm like, wait, but now I'm not. Now I'm not gonna have to consider honor in everything that I do. But here's the thing. Here's the good news, right? And this is something that God had revealed to me when I was like in the thick of like, because like I felt slick into a depression too, and really nobody knew about it. God showed me that baby Honor will never feel pain and will never feel heartbreak and will never have to go through these earthly trials and tribulations that I had to. And that was the only thing that made me like happy in that moment, was that like, okay, I don't get to hold my baby, but at least my baby is being held by Jesus.
And you will one day.
One day I'll get to meet
Like
them.
you will, yeah.
Yeah. And that was just something that really encouraged me. But also, what can encourage us, because we can't go back, unfortunately, we can't change anything that has happened.
Yeah.
But what we can do is we can help people.
Yeah.
With the testimonies that we've gone through. I think that's one reason God allows us to go through these like heartbreaking things, so that maybe one person will be saved through our testimonies, right? So that's something. The one last question that I want to ask you before we wrap it up, because I know this is probably like 10 hours long. But if you could give any encouraging words to somebody that's like in it from the loss of a loved one at this moment, what would you say? And what would maybe I know it's hard to say like or it's hard to say I would have done this different now, because like when you're in grief, it's like it's like it's hard to say. But if you could give any advice to somebody that is going through what you went through right now or anything similar, what would you say?
Take it second by second, minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day. Keep pushing. And pray. I think having godly counsel is one of the best things to have too. Really talking to God, because even when you don't feel it, he's still there. For a long time I didn't feel it. I didn't like, it's like I knew about God, but I didn't feel it. And you're overwhelmed by your own grief, and you're wondering why. And I don't even know, like, just keep pushing, because you're here for a reason. You're here for a purpose. And what the enemy, what's it say? What the enemy has for evil,
Meant for evil, God is going to work out for our good.
Yeah, God will turn it around for your good. And even when you don't see that, just try to keep your faith and try to be around good
Yeah.
godly
Godly
counsel,
counsel.
because it's easy to slip away. It's easy to slip into the other side of things and slip in with the devil and dance with the devil. Like, it's easy to do that because those things that are, of the world will give you happiness for a minute, but
Mm.
what gives you joy
Mhm.
lasts forever. Just like when you were saying, when you went through that hurt, you still
Yeah.
had that
Yeah.
joy, because the devil can't take your joy away. He
Mhm.
can, something will make you happy for a split second, but he can't take the joy that I have.
Mhm.
He can hurt something in my life, but he's not taking this peace, this joy that I have. Like, you cannot take that from me.
Hmm.
That's Jesus in
Yeah.
me. Like, you're
Mhm.
not taking that from me. But just keep pushing.
Mhm.
I was supposed to go to a lot of like these meetings with other people who have lost their siblings. I
Mm.
think that would probably help. I'm actually in Facebook groups
Mm.
of like sibling loss groups. I'm
Hmm.
still in it today.
Yeah.
We send each other, gifts for Christmas, birthdays, stuff
Aw.
like that. It's it's a little easier to talk to somebody who's
Who's
going
been through
through
it?
it too,
Yeah.
because every loss is different, but some people just don't understand. I mean, I've had people ask me like, why aren't you over it? Like, why aren't you through
I
it or
hate
whatever?
I hate feeling like that. And I
And
know
it's
like
just
our
like,
loved ones, they never there's that burden of like, okay, I've talked about this for a while now. Do they want me to stop?
yeah.
And not that they've ever
Mhm.
said like, okay, stop talking about it.
But like, do you, yeah.
It's like something that weighs on our shoulders like, okay,
Mhm.
I've already said this so many times now. I'm tired of making other people sad. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? There's that burden there. And that's super good. I would say the same thing as you to encourage somebody. One of the things that God had revealed to me in that, and I hope that this will encourage you as well, is that I would not talk to God about the
Oh,
miscarriage. So I would continue to pray, like, I would bless my food.
yeah.
I would ask him to cover me as I
Like beating
drive.
around the bush.
I would
Like,
pray
you're
for
like, I'm not gonna touch that.
Exactly. I would pray for my family, like, Lord, help them with this, help them in this area, da 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 da. I would pray for other things, but the miscarriage was off limits.
Yeah.
I couldn't talk about the miscarriage to anybody. I couldn't talk
Mm.
about the miscarriage to God and to myself even. And God revealed to me in doing that, right? In blocking that off, I was continuing to harbor that hurt and I was never going to heal. And he
Mm.
told me that he can't heal me if I don't come to him and talk to him about the
Yeah.
situation, right? And so that's when I had to admit, like, God, I'm mad about this situation. Like, it
Yeah.
feels like a slap in the face. It feels like I
Mhm.
had this thing and it was just snatched away from me. But in talking to God about how actually felt, right? Because be real with God, he knew that, right?
He
He
knows.
already knew
Yeah.
that I felt that, right?
Mhm.
But he wanted me to I'm his daughter. He wanted me to come to him as his
Yeah.
daughter and say, Daddy, this is how I feel.
Yeah.
This is what's going on, and I need help. I'm not healed. I'm mad. I don't know what to do next. I don't know how to act. I don't know how to be around people. Like when it first happens, because it feels like you're like damaged goods, and it feels like
Mm.
they're looking at me like I'm
Yeah.
damaged goods. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Or like, oh no, like she's so fragile,
Oh yeah.
you know what I'm
No.
saying? And it's
Yeah.
like, maybe I am fragile, but I don't want to like feel like, you get what I'm saying? Every time I walk in the room, I don't want that to be the first thought. Like, oh, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's how it felt. So. And that's what I would like to encourage the people who are watching today is if you have something that you are so hurt about regarding grief or really I guess regarding any of your hurts,
Yeah.
don't block it or keep it away from God, because for one, he already knows, but
Mhm.
for two, that's when your healing will be unlocked, is when you come to God, and it's not going to happen in a moment, and you're always going to miss the memory of your loved one, right? I think that's just like, as humans, that's how we are. When we've
Yeah.
known and we've had a love so great
Mhm.
as we've had, right? We're always gonna miss them.
Yeah.
Um, but God will get us through it.
He will.
And the only way he will be able to get us through it is if we come to him and if we're honest with him and we talk to him about it. But that's where
Yeah.
the healing part of the story begins
Yeah. And
when
he
you do
helps
that.
you understand too, because
Mm.
there's some things you just won't understand, but
Yeah.
the more that get closer to God and
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's so real though.
Mhm.
Talk to him because he already knows.
Yeah.
He already knows what's going on.
Mhm.
It's just a matter of you being honest with him and
Mhm.
letting it go to him. Like, it's just this we're talking about the living God.
Right.
Like, we can talk to him, and it's
Mhm.
crazy that you said, because sometimes it feels like we can't. Like,
Yeah.
let me just not touch on
Mhm.
that. And he's literally waiting for you. He's
Yep.
like, how can I fix your heart if you don't give it
Mhm.
to me? Like,
Right. Right.
that's
That's
good.
good. Well, Kai, I want to thank you so much for coming on our
Thank you.
podcast. And I know this was very vulnerable,
Yeah.
very tough topic. I don't think we've covered anything as tough as this yet. But I want to encourage you, viewers, if you are watching and you're in a tough spot, lean on God. He is literally the only one that's going to get you through this tough time. But I want to thank you once again for coming on, and I want to thank you guys for watching our podcast. Be on the lookout for some more episodes. We have a great season 2 in store for you guys. So go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, as well as subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the like button down below. Also, the notifications, go ahead and turn those on so you're notified every time we post a video. But thank you guys so much for tuning in, and Kylie for coming on our podcast. We love you guys, and God bless.